This is Wesley Todd with Florida Prison Consulting, and I've got a very important question to answer. Why are USA prisons so corrupt? And this is a complicated answer, but I'm going to kind of briefly describe it. Basically, it all starts at the top. You've got Congress and Senate. You've got a lot of congressmen and a lot of senators that are really, really dirty. They're taking, mad bribes from all these different people, getting people in office. There's a lot of suppliers, a lot of people that stand to get very, very wealthy off of the prison system. And that would be all these private corporations that are funneling their products into the prison system. The markups are insane. Commissary markups, just incredible markups on everything. The telephone system for a Spanish inmate to call home cost $1 a minute. How can that be? I mean, we pay $40 a month for our cell phones, and we've got like Mexico included in our calling plan. Why would it be $1 a minute? Because these private companies are making billions and billions of dollars off the prisons, and they don't want anything to stop. So they're just funding the congressmen, funding the senators, funding the directors of the BOP. The directors of the BOP are incredibly corrupt. Once they get in there, they have their own union. And it's very, very hard to actually get one of them fired. You've really got to get charges pressed on them. You've got to get them arrested to get them fired, usually. It's very, very difficult to get them fired because they all stick together. They've all got dirt on everybody. The officers have dirt on the warden has dirt on the officers. Everybody's got so much dirt on everybody else. It's this corrupt cartel. That's the best way to describe it. And this goes for any federal prison. There's not a single federal prison that's not absolutely corrupted. So then they build this gang mentality within the prisons. The officers push the gangs. They encourage it. They want gangs more than anything else in the world because the gangs distribute the drugs, distribute the cell phones, and they discipline the inmates that the guards don't like. So what they do is they get everybody in fear to stand up, to speak out, to write a grievance. Everybody's in fear to do it. Everybody's in fear to turn in a complaint, to report what's going on, because they use the gangs to discipline anybody like that. So when I was writing out complaints, grievances, hundreds but upon hundreds, I had to fight the gangs more than I had to fight the cops. Here I'm trying to complain about situations like open sewage that's been unaddressed for over 10 years. They had sewage pouring through the dorms in Yazoo Federal Correctional Low. Even in the solitary housing, they had so much sewage, the officers would come give you blankets. They were issued from laundry. They were called flood blankets, issued from laundry just to soak up all the sewage in your cell every day. You had to put, blankets in front of the toilet, blankets in front of the shower. Then in all the dorms, they would roll up these blankets, and they called them flood blankets. They issued them to the dorms daily. They actually had a moat for all the sewage in C2 dorm where they would allow the sewage to back up into this moat, and then they would vacuum it out every hour or two. So you just wonder, how do they get away with this? How do they get away with substandard conditions that are worse than Mexico? How do they get away with this extortion? All the stuff that goes on. How do they get away with it? It's because there's so many people at the top that are getting paid off, and then they've got the inmates scared to death. And the inmates think that grievances don't work because the BOP proves it time and time again that they won't let the grievances work. But I say, you've got to write grievances. You still have to do it. You have to file lawsuits because if you don't, then you're just like everybody else. Right now, the courts have just been totally covering up everything for the BOP. So I've written grievances. I've filed lawsuits about the open sewage, about all these things. And the courts just turn a total blind eye. Instead, if it were another situation, the courts would immediately make criminal referrals to the FBI for investigation. They would immediately deal with it, not with the BOP, because the courts protect the BOP 100%. These judges are so corrupt, these federal judges. They are worse than Kim Jong-un. I don't know of a single federal judge. I take that back. I know of a couple that aren't corrupted, but most of the federal judges are completely corrupted. And it's all part of this same evil system. But the only way to break this system is to be involved in lobbying, to lobby to the Congress and Senate, to report all this stuff going on. And then when you've got a new election coming up, you go to the opponent of the person that was currently running and you tell them, look, I'll help you run, I'll get you votes, but here's what you have to run on. You have to run on ending this prison abuse. You have to showcase photos of the abuse in the prison, photos of the open sewage, photos of the black mold in the dorm, and then you get them to run on that, make promises on that, and if they don't fulfill, with the next election coming up, you expose them for making false promises and not keeping them. That's like literally the only answer I see to the federal BOP, though. I mean, really, they need to completely free everybody. Everybody that's incarcerated right now has suffered through so much abuse and so much torture. Honestly, that the abuse and torture goes over probably what they've even done as a crime, especially the drug crimes. They should free everybody, knock multiple years off their sentences, especially for anybody that lived in prison during COVID. They should get an automatic 10 years off their sentence across the board, the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons, at least 10 years just for the corruption and the inhumanity they had to deal with during that time. That is like the simplest way to make it right to these inmates. The other solution would be, I really believe that the inmates need to get together and do a class action lawsuit against the Federal Bureau of Prisons. If we could get every single inmate that was locked up during COVID to go after the Federal BOP and in a class action lawsuit, do a jury trial and ask for like $10 million a piece, I think we could actually bankrupt the system. And probably the news would be so great it would call to revamp the system. But the only way to revamp the system would be to terminate the employment of every single federal officer, because every federal officer was, if not corrupt, complicit with the corruption, which becomes a participant of the crime. Because all of them see what's going on. They all see the cell phones being sold. They see the drugs. They see the inhumane abuse of inmates and all the stuff going on. But they're turning a blind eye and they're not reporting it because they don't want to get in trouble. So we've got to get rid of those guys too. All of them need to go. What I have actually tried to do is I've tried to contact other countries and get other countries to actually complain about the treatment of the inmates from their countries in the USA. I think if some other countries would actually file some lawsuits about the depraved conditions of the Federal Bureau of Prisons and basically allowing, let's say Chinese inmates to be in federal prisons and them being abused, if you could get the United Nations or something involved, you could possibly get a bigger reaction. But currently right now, the only thing to do is just write tons and tons of grievances and file as many lawsuits as possible, write as many tort claims as possible, and just put the heat on them continually. That's the only thing there is to do. And lobby, 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 lobby. Get it out in front. I'm always tagging, the president, vice president, congressmen, senators on Twitter, tagging them everywhere, just hoping the news media will catch, some of the things I'm saying. Like, I'll tell you, one of the most corrupt politicians in the entire world is Benny Thompson out of Jackson, Mississippi. He has allowed that cesspool, Yazoo Federal Correctional Low, to exist 10 years, open sewage, and he claims to be about black heritage and about a black guy, like supporting, Black Lives Matter. He's got black guys walking through, sleeping in open sewage right next door. How much alike slavery is that? And then the same black guys are making, maybe 25 cents a day doing slave labor in Unicor. It's a factory that's like getting filthy rich off these inmates' labor. And Benny Thompson, the congressman that's only 20, 30 minutes away in Jackson, Mississippi, hasn't even once gone to check on it. I've written him like hundreds of letters, told him, contacted his staff, told him all about it, and he hasn't even gotten out of his cozy office to go check on this prison. Benny Thompson should be ashamed of himself. I wish everybody would go on Benny Thompson's Twitter page, go on Benny Thompson's Instagram page, and just, write that you're absolutely ashamed of him for what he's doing to his own race, to everybody. Like, how in the world do congressmen allow this to happen? All right, guys, I'm going off on a tangent. This is Wesley Todd with Florida Prison Consulting, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment, share, and follow me for more. God bless.